Self-efficacy is about believing in your ability to handle challenges, to make things happen. It's that I can do this attitude.
Okay.
And it's absolutely crucial for breaking free from this cycle.
Because if you don't believe you can change, if you don't believe you deserve better, then it's so easy to just stay stuck. You
Yeah,
just give up.
precisely. Resilience is about developing that inner strength, that sense of agency that allows you to say, no more. I'm taking control of my life, and I'm going to create something better.
And it's not just about that internal strength, is it?
Right.
The book also highlights the importance of those external support systems.
Yeah.
Having those friends, those teachers, those mentors who believe in you, who offer that encouragement and guidance, that can make all the difference in the world.
It's like building a safety net, a community that can catch you when you fall and remind you of your worth. And for someone who's been through trauma, who's been surrounded by negativity, that kind of support can be so incredibly healing.
It's like finally feeling seen, understood, and valued for who you are.
Yeah,
And that feeling of validation can be so powerful, especially when you've been made to feel worthless or invisible.
absolutely. And it's not just about the people in your life. The book also talks about the importance of finding refuge in things like hobbies, creative pursuits, or meaningful work.
Right.
These activities can provide a sense of purpose, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of control, which can be so empowering for someone who's been through a lot.
I love that. It's about finding those things that light you up, that make you feel alive and capable.
Yes.
And when you're feeling that way, it's so much easier to kind of push back against those negative patterns,
Mm.
to believe that you deserve more.
It's about shifting the focus from what's been done to you to what you can create, what you can achieve. It's
Yeah.
about reclaiming your power, your agency, your voice.
And that's what I love about this whole idea of resilience.
Yeah.
It's not about erasing the past
Right.
or pretending that it didn't happen.
Right.
It's about acknowledging the pain,
Yeah.
learning from it,
Yep.
and then choosing to move forward in a way that honors your strength, your worth, your potential.
Yeah. Beautifully said. And speaking of choosing a different path, the book introduces us to a story that really illustrates this whole idea of resilience in action.
Okay.
Remember the story of Dave that we mentioned earlier?
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah.
His story seemed particularly intense, even for this book.
Well, that's because Dave's story perfectly embodies the complexities of the cycle.
Okay.
And more importantly, how breaking free is possible even in the most challenging situations. You see, Dave was emotionally abused by his mother as a child.
Okay.
And as an adult, he found himself repeating those patterns, becoming an emotionally abusive boss
Oh.
and partner.
It's like those early wounds were playing out in his adult life, even though he probably wasn't even aware of it at the time.
And it gets even more complicated. Dave eventually met Melissa, and initially it seemed like things were different.
Okay.
But then Melissa started becoming the abuser in the relationship.
Wait, so he went from being the victim to the abuser and then back to being the victim again.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It highlights a really crucial point that the book emphasizes. These roles are not fixed.
Oh.
Anyone, regardless of their past experiences, can fall into either role depending on the circumstances and the dynamics of the relationship.
It's almost like a dance, isn't it?
Yeah.
This back and forth between these two poles of power and control.
Yeah.
And it shows just how deeply ingrained those patterns can be, even when we think we've broken free.
Exactly. And that's why understanding this cycle is so important. It's
Yeah.
not about judging individuals or labeling them as abuser or victim.
Right.
It's about recognizing the underlying patterns, the psychological mechanisms, the societal factors that contribute to these dynamics.
It's about breaking down those simplistic labels and really digging into the complexities of human behavior,
Yeah.
the ways in which our past experiences, our beliefs, our environments can shape how we interact with others.
And most importantly, it's about recognizing that change is possible. You know, Dave's story, despite its complexities, ultimately becomes a story of hope. He eventually recognizes these destructive patterns in his life,
Yeah.
and he seeks help to break free.
It's like he finally wakes up and says, this isn't who I want to be. This isn't how I want to live.
Exactly. And that's the message we want to leave with our listeners.
Yeah.
No matter how entrenched you might feel in these patterns, whether you're currently in the role of abuser or victim, there is always a path to healing, a way to break free and create healthier relationships.
I think Dave's story is such a powerful reminder that, we always have a choice. We can choose to stay stuck in those familiar patterns, or we can choose to step out of that cycle and create something better.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people listening right now might be thinking, Okay, that's great in theory, but how do I even know if I'm part of this cycle? What if
Hmm.
I'm exhibiting abusive or victim behavior and I don't even realize it?
Yeah, that's where self-awareness becomes so critical. And the book actually offers this really interesting exercise for gaining that self-awareness.
Okay,
It suggests asking those closest to us for feedback, for their honest perspective on our behavior.
hold on. You're saying I should go to my partner, my kids, my friends, and be like, hey, tell me all the ways I'm messing up. That sounds terrifying.
It can be intimidating, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the book suggests, having them write down their feedback anonymously,
Okay.
list behaviors that make them feel afraid, ashamed, or bad about themselves.
Right.
It takes courage to be that vulnerable,
Yeah.
to be open to that criticism, but it can be incredibly insightful.
It's like holding up a mirror to your own behavior, right?
Yeah.
Seeing those blind spots that you might not have noticed otherwise. And even though it might sting a little, that kind of honesty can be the catalyst for real change.
Remember, the goal isn't to assign blame or make anyone feel guilty.
Right.
It's about gaining a clearer understanding of how our actions impact others.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're so caught up in our own patterns, our own justifications,
Oh,
that we
true.
lose sight of the bigger picture.
Like we're wearing blinders. And those blinders can prevent us from seeing the harm that we might be causing, even unintentionally. So getting that outside perspective, even if it's uncomfortable, can be a real wake-up call.
Absolutely. And it's not just about identifying the negative.
Okay.
The book also explores the flip side, those who seem to naturally break free from this cycle.
Okay.
Those individuals who demonstrate this remarkable resilience even from a young age.
Okay, that's fascinating. What makes these people different? Is it something in their DNA? Does he just get lucky?
It's not about luck. The book identifies several factors that contribute to this natural resilience. Having those positive role models, as we discussed earlier, is huge. But it also comes down to developing that strong sense of self-esteem and self-efficacy,
Right.
feeling supported by friends and teachers, and having that hopeful outlook on the future.
It sounds like a recipe for inner strength,
Yeah.
for that unshakable belief in yourself and your ability to navigate challenges.
And that inner strength is often bolstered by a strong support system. Having those healthy peer relationships, a close bond with a nurturing adult outside the family. These connections provide a buffer against negativity, a reminder that you're not alone, that you're loved and valued.
It's like building a safety net of positive relationships that can catch you when you fall and help you bounce back stronger. And it reminds me of what we were saying earlier about finding refuge in those hobbies, in those creative pursuits, or in meaningful work. It's like all of these things come together to create this sense of purpose, of agency, of control over your own life.
Exactly. It's about cultivating those internal and external resources that allow you to navigate challenges without falling into those destructive patterns.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that you have a choice. You don't have to be defined by those past experiences or fall into those predetermined roles.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the cycle of abuse, what's
Yeah.
the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the key takeaway is this. The cycle of abuse is complex and deeply rooted, but it's not inevitable. By understanding those risk factors, by cultivating resilience, and by being willing to confront our own patterns, we can break free and create healthier relationships, both with ourselves and with others.
It's a powerful message of hope.
Mm.
And I think it's so important to emphasize that. This conversation has been intense, it's been eye-opening, maybe even a little uncomfortable at times, but ultimately it's about empowerment.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we have the power to change, to heal, to create a better future for ourselves and for generations to come.
And if you're listening to this and you're feeling overwhelmed, please remember that you are not alone. There are resources available, there are people who care, and there are support systems ready to help you on this journey.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to reach out, to ask for help, to take that first step toward breaking free.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure. Remember, change is possible. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep choosing to create a world where the cycle of abuse no longer holds power.